Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Wednesday, December 29th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Rose Bowl game against Utah is in 3 days. The game against Michigan in 333 days. The Buckeyes are well into their Rose Bowl preparations at this point. We got to watch some of their practice on Monday, Tuesday. It was Tuesday. I know what day it is. They're definitely not all blending together at this point. It was Tuesday. We got to watch the Buckeyes practice over in Carson at the LA Galaxy's kind of training facilities over there. Buckeyes and Utah both had a practice on Tuesday. They'll be back out there again Wednesday. To me, though, the most interesting thing, like we got to watch a little bit. It was interesting to see, some of the guys that weren't there. But I think to me, the most interesting thing was a guy who was there. So someone else who was there. It wasn't particularly interesting to see Kevin Noon there, but he was there too. Kevin, I was very interested to see, yet again, Chris Olave out there in full pads practicing with the Buckeyes.
I mean, yeah, it's one thing to just go out there and be hanging out with the guys, yucking around, being in gym shorts and a jersey with no pads, but no, that's not Chris Olave. We were standing outside of practice as the players were coming up, and here comes number two. I mean, laughing and joking with the guys. So, we saw the opt out. We saw all that come down on Monday, and we didn't see Garrett Wilson. We didn't see NPF. We didn't see Haskell Garrett. But lo and behold, we see Chris Olave. This is, I'm just waiting for this to be some huge wrestling reveal or something. And by God, that's Chris Olave's music. And, and he runs out there and he plays. But, I also enjoy watching wrestling probably a little too much, and probably I've allowed it to warp my fragile little mind. But he was there.
He was there, and, he wasn't running with the ones the whole time. But he was out there, and he was running pass routes. He was back fielding punts a couple times, and it wasn't, when we watched, it was a lot of Julian Fleming and Emeka Egbuka and maybe Marvin Harrison running out there along with Jackson Smith and Jigba, kind of with that first group. But then Olave's still out there running routes. He's still back. I mean, Jesse Mirko punted the ball, and we have a photo gallery on our front page, and we have lots of videos of practice. You can take a look for yourself at BuckeyeScoop.com. He's out there doing stuff. He wasn't, I didn't see him, we didn't get to see, blocking or any kind of full contact stuff. We didn't get to see, the more game install kind of stuff.
Right.
So again, it's entirely possible he doesn't play, and he really just wants to be out there with his guys a few more days. But, if you heard the glass-shattering music at the Rose Bowl, it wouldn't completely shock me, but that's just very intriguing to me that even after he's said, okay, I'm leaving for the NFL, it's still not completely out of the question that he might, change his mind and end up playing on Saturday.
Right. It's not like you signed something that I've now officially given up my eligibility. Now, there certainly are certain things in terms of what your agent status is, if you've taken any monies to lose amateur status, but that line has even been blurred more with NIL. So, yeah, if he sits there and he puts out an opt-out on Monday and he decides to play on Saturday, yeah, there would be nothing shocking there, and I'm sure that the comments are going to be like, oh, Orr and Noon both believe that Olave is playing. That's not what we're saying at this point, but there's certainly, is he 100% certain that he's done? Would you sit there and say that maybe that there's a 5% chance, 10% chance, 50% chance? I mean, it's going to be something interesting to watch as we're going through. I mean, Lord knows we're not dry on topics for talking about Ohio State moving into this game, moving into 2022. But this is another story, and one that probably doesn't have necessarily the same, just gloom and doom that a lot of fans feel are surrounding this program as the mighty Roman Empire has fallen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think the Visigoths are at the gates just yet. But yeah, I'm just going to read you from Chris Olave's thing. He said, after discussions, this is his official announcement. After discussions with my family and coaches, I feel it is best to prepare for the next step in my journey and enter the NFL draft. So it is time for the next group of receivers to get their opportunity and carry on the legacy and tradition of of Zone 6. I'll still be at the Rose Bowl and cheering on my teammates. So, if you wanted to read that as, well, he left that a little vague, you could read that to read that, yeah, he left that, maybe he did leave that intentionally a little vague to give himself a way to change his mind later, if you wanted to read it that way. Something that was a little less vague. We were at practice. Seven Banks was not at practice. Seven Banks was apparently posting on Instagram from Orlando, Florida. So I think it's safe to say Seven Banks is probably not going to be at the game on Saturday, even if Chris Olave is.
Right, and for those who don't remember, Seven Banks out of Orlando Jones High School, so that's home for him, and it appears that he's not going to be here. Lord knows people are having enough trouble getting out to LA in the first place, and if he's not here at this point, well, Seven, you're late.
Yeah.
So I would not expect to see him there. You have to wonder if the next step is the portal. Certainly, he's draft eligible, but, is his stock necessarily where he wants to be? I think by all accounts, you have to say this was not the year he had hoped to have in terms of his own professional development. So, could he end up somewhere else? Could he end up staying closer to home for a final year? We don't know at this point. I think the only thing that I'm willing to sit there and say that I'm pretty confident in saying is that we will not see number 7 on defense out there for Ohio State against Utah.
Someone else who was not at practice, linebacker Cody Simon. That was not a surprise to us at all. He has been banged up. He's not going to be out there. But because he wasn't out there, there was already a thin linebacker group. We saw Cade Stover out there. Cade Stover was in a white jersey, which means he's on defense, wearing number 5. Which, that's intriguing for a couple reasons. One is that Cade Stover was out there on defense playing linebacker again. Number 2 is Marcus Williamson used to wear number 5, and Marcus Williamson was also not there. So there are a couple more, there's a couple more changes potentially coming on that defense on Saturday from what you saw earlier in the season.
Right, exactly. And, I've read certainly on the Ask the Insiders board, people upset about, well, they just find a position for Cade Stover already. He's losing all of these years. Well, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Steel Chambers had a couple of years at running back and moved over. We've seen Cade Stover on the defensive line. We've seen him at tight end. Now we're seeing him at linebacker. There absolutely is a need at linebacker. So I don't know how anybody could be upset. You can be upset at the situation that they have to move him to linebacker because they don't have the depth. You had the midseason departures and injuries and everything else and the uncertain status, throughout the year of Paulie Naote and everything going on there. But, I think Cade Stover really could be successful at the linebacker position. I think he's going to be somebody who could flourish in the Jim Knowles system. That's not something we have to worry about until January 2nd. At this point, we're worried about January 1st. He's another body out there as they get ready to take on a very physical Utah team.
One more person that we didn't notice at practice on Tuesday was defensive tackle Antoine Jackson. So with Haskell Garrett already out, that defensive line is maybe a little thinner than the Buckeyes might want going into this game, and that is going to potentially be an issue because you've got a very physical Utah run game starring Dayton, Ohio native, Tavion Thomas, who is, he is a fantastic story. You got to talk to Tavion Thomas a little bit during the interviews on Tuesday morning. Just let people know a little bit about him and his story.
Right, and I didn't know all of the story. I had an opportunity to talk with Marcus Hartman of the Dayton Daily News. He referred to a Tom Archdeacon story in the Dayton Daily News. At one point, he was living in a car, with a young child. He started at Cincinnati, played his freshman year, then his sophomore year. They wanted to redshirt him. He's like, I'm out. You have all these offers as a prep star, and then you go, well, I'm going to go into the portal, and then none of those offers are there. And he's like, and there were no offers. So be careful what you wish for when you go into the portal. We see a lot of guys, okay, Quinn Ewers had his pick of schools to go to upon leaving Ohio State. Mm-hmm. You sit there, you see Jamison Williams, when he left Ohio State, had his pick of schools, but a lot of guys are not going to have that opportunity. Tavion Thomas did not have that opportunity. Ends up going to Independence Community College in Kansas, the second of the last chance U schools, and then ends up at Utah after reaching out, just cold calling essentially on social media, Zach Moss. Mm-hmm. And Zach Moss hit him back and got him in touch with Utah. and the rest is kind of history there. But, there are a lot of interesting things there in terms of Thomas's recruitment. Ohio State certainly was keeping a finger on that one. I think there were some concerns about his standardized test. Oklahoma was very interested in him. Both of them kind of backed away before the early signing period, and that's what led to him going to Cincinnati. He's made the best of this situation now. 1,000-yard rusher, just powerful guy. I mean, really that big punch along with T.J. Pledger, very interesting guy. It's going to be hard for Ohio State fans not to at least be pulling for him to have a good game, but just maybe not a great game.
Yeah, and Tavion Thomas, when he was living in his car, that was not like 7 years ago. That was within the last 12 to 18 months, I think. I mean, it was like over the summer, I think, like summer 2020,
Right.
I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a pretty recent thing. And at one point, I was over there for a bit, and he was asked, you seem really happy to be here. He's like, oh, I am really happy to be here. Like this is a remarkable stage, a remarkable comeback story for him. And there are a lot of players on that Utah team that maybe we talk about Chris Olave being someone who's really easy to root for. Like there are some real compelling stories on the Utah side of this game as well. There's so many interesting storylines, and we've got several more days to go through all of them. And Tony Gerderman and I are going to be doing some shows about this kind of stuff as well. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. But when the Ohio State interviews were going on, we talked to the Ohio State defensive players on Tuesday. You spent the whole time with Ronnie Hickman, just because of the way the room sorted out. You spent the whole time with Ronnie Hickman. What was the most interesting thing you heard from Ronnie Hickman on Tuesday?
Talked to him about the Big Ten. And I talked two things. One, I talked to him about the Big Ten on Tuesday night. Big Ten play started with Minnesota playing in the West Coast something or other bowl. And I was like, do you root for Big Ten teams? He's like, oh, of course, you got to root for the league. I said, well, obviously there's that team up north. He's like, well, you already know the answer to that one. So, Ronnie Hickman certainly, he knows where that's at. Even though he's an East Coast guy, grew up watching Ohio State, pulling for Ohio State. I don't think any of that is fake at that point. Then I did ask him the question about, not to stir the pot, but to stir the pot a little bit. Are you still pissed off about the comments that came from that team up north about the defense and maybe them having the heart and being tough enough? You could tell he kind of thought about it for a second, and he wanted to no-sell it the best he could, but he certainly was not very happy about it. I think it's something that still very much drives these guys. I mean, he gave me all the right answers. Oh, we're moving on from that or whatever, but I don't buy it for a second that it's out of any of their minds. And I think that's a good thing, because people are going to say, well, you got to let that go. You can't let Michigan beat you twice. You can't let Michigan beat you in the Michigan game and then beat you in the Rose Bowl against Utah. But if they can draw energy from there to be able to go against an offense that in a lot of ways has some similarities to what Michigan does, then that's a win.
Yeah, that is a coming out of that game and still thinking about that game and being mopey about it is one thing. Coming out of that game and being motivated by it is kind of another. We've seen the Ohio State program be motivated by a loss. If you remember, you may remember such seasons as 2020, when there was a lot of talk about the Clemson game and the loss to Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl, and lo and behold, they got to play Clemson later that year, and it went pretty well for Ohio State. Guess what? Michigan's on the schedule next year, so if they can use it the right way, that's a little motivation's never a bad thing, and a little content's never a bad thing at either. And on Wednesday, later today, we're going to have lots more content for you. We will be talking to the Ohio State offense. Offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson and a handful of players, and then we'll be talking to the Utah defense, Utah's defensive coordinator and a handful of Utah's defensive players.
Including hopefully Devin Lloyd, their All-American linebacker, who I'm interested in talking to.
Yeah, I'm very interested to talk to him as well. And I don't know, are we getting Clark Phillips? I don't know if we're getting Clark Phillips. I
don't know. Generally they want to bring out older hats than that.
Yeah. Clark Phillips, of course, the guy who was committed to Ohio State, the cornerback who was committed to Ohio State and then decommitted in December 2019 after Jeff Hafley left or announced he was leaving, and he signed with Utah instead. And then lo and behold, he gets to play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl just a couple of years later. Life is funny sometimes. So we'll be talking to those guys. We'll be back out at practice on Wednesday afternoon, so we'll have lots more content there. If you have not checked out all of our content from Tuesday, we have a loaded front page at BuckeyeScoop.com. Photo gallery, videos from practice reports, videos of all the interviews that we did, videos of all the Ohio State interviews, plus videos of Tavion Thomas's interview, video of an interview with Cameron Rising, Utah's quarterback. Lots of great content there, all at BuckeyeScoop.com. You can also find a lot of that content on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. That will help other folks find those shows thanks to the magic algorithm of the YouTube site. And also hit that bell, subscribe to our channel, and then you get notified every time we post a new live show. Tony Gerderman and I are probably going to be doing some live shows pretty much every day while we're out here. We're streaming a lot of those interviews live as we can in the mornings. We'll have those interviews live on Wednesday morning. We'll have more interviews live Friday with the head coaches. So there's going to be a ton of content coming this week. And finally, do make sure you check out all of our great podcasts. Wherever you find this podcast, you can find Buckeye Weekly, you can find Big Knee Kickoff, you can find Gives in the Bank, you can find Around the Oval, all of our great shows. You can just search Buckeye Scoop. You'll find all of them. Subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review, which we do truly appreciate because it does help folks find those shows as well. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.